The Lost Library podcast. Read between the lines with us.
Welcome to the Lost Library podcast with me, your host Sarah. Today we are joined by Anne Masterson, and Anne is the JCSP librarian for Terence MacSweeney Community College. She has had a very interesting career, and today we're going to ask Anne about her career as a librarian, as well as some more personal questions about what she likes to read. Hi Anne, thanks for coming on to the Lost Library podcast.
Hi Sarah, delighted to be one of your first guests.
So we'll get straight into it. Can you tell us, how did you become a librarian and what qualifications are needed these days?
When I started my library career, I was with Cork County Library, and it was long ago, back in the 70s. I started with Cork County Library and I worked in a small little lending library up on Shear Street. But I got an awful lot of experience there because I started in the lending library and then I went to the mobile library, then I worked at head office, so I really got a lot of experience. But then I got an opportunity to go and do a Master's in Library and Information Studies in Dublin, which was a great opportunity at the time. So of course I went for it, and that gave me a great opportunity to move from where I was. So I did move and I went to New York. And I really had a good time in New York, and I worked in the most amazing library ever.
Tell us about working in the library in New York.
The library I worked in New York was on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. It was a really ritzy area, so it was a gorgeous library. It was called New York Society Library. We had a big staff there, and there was a lot of opportunities there also. It was a great setup because usually when you work in a library, you get one job to do, and you could be stuck at the one job for the whole day. But in this library, my main focus was cataloguing, which can be quite boring if you're doing it all the time. But I also had 1 hour per day where I was on the phone, just answering telephone queries. And I had 2 hours where I was on the desk, the circulation desk, dealing with all the members who came in and out.
Can you tell us what actually is cataloguing?
Cataloguing is putting the book in a specific spot in the library. It has a catalogue number or a call number. The call number would be the non-fiction books, and the fiction books just get the first 3 letters of the author's name. It just makes it easier for you and for me to find a book in the library.
And the library was in New York, and did you ever meet anyone famous come into your library?
We did have a few famous people come in. One in particular was Paul Newman. I don't know if you'd know him. He's way before your time, but he was the most handsome film star ever, and he was one of the most famous people I've ever met.
So Anne, you work in Terence MacSweeney's JCSP library. Can you tell us, what does JCSP actually stand for and what does the programme involve?
JCSP is Junior Cert School Programme, and I'm part of the library programme, so is the Junior Cert School Programme Demonstration Library Project. And it was established under the Department of Education and Skills. And the brief of the project was to develop a whole school reading culture and to offer our students a positive experience in school. Too often students leave school and they have a very negative experience. And sometimes the negative experience is because they have literacy problems.
Yes.
Because if you can't read, you can't follow the curriculum. So that's what we do. We try and get the students to be better readers. And whatever it takes to do that, we do it. There are 30 JCSP school libraries across Ireland at the moment. Unfortunately, there's only one in Cork, but fortunately for us, it's in Terence MacSweeney. So we're really lucky to have that. And the main idea of these libraries is that they're staffed by a full-time professional librarian, because there's no point in having a library in a school and not having somebody to take care of it. Because if you do, it's just a room with books and nothing happens. The librarians in school, like myself, we work with the teachers in running timetabled library classes throughout the day, and we support all areas of the curriculum. We provide out-of-class time access to our libraries before school starts, during lunchtime and after school. We also have a range of clubs and activities and events organised on an ongoing basis.
And the library is such a creative space.
It is really. We have a lot of different facilities coming in. Sure, you'd know all about that. You've been involved in loads of the programmes we've had running in the library.
Yeah, well, I've definitely been involved in loads of different programmes that have helped me. I mean, I did the space poetry project, we did the book club, I did the teen graphic novel, all of these projects I've got involved with through the JCSP library have been amazing. And people think libraries should be really, really quiet, but that's not the case here, is it?
Oh, it's certainly not. Our library in Terence McSweeney is a vibrant, active learning space, and it's really the heart of our school.
What's your favourite part of your job, Anne?
My favourite part of my job is encouraging the students to read and to enjoy reading, to get pleasure out of it. I think when students go to secondary school, they tend to stop reading, and it's because their lives are so busy. So my job is to try and get them back into the reading, because the more they read, the better readers they become. And the better readers they become, the more they can apply themselves to the curriculum at school.
So we'll move on to a bit more fun questions, Anne. What is your favourite book genre and why?
I really like historical fiction. I just enjoy it. I love reading about history. I would have loved history when I was at school, and I didn't do it when I went on to Leaving Cert because you had to choose. So now I get all my history from my historical fiction.
I agree, I love historical fiction as well. And what are you currently reading, and would you recommend it?
The book I'm reading at the moment is called American Dirt. I don't know if you've heard of it.
I haven't.
It's by Janine Cummins, and I'm absolutely loving it. It's an amazing book, and I'm not going to tell you too much about it. It's about in Mexico, there was this bookseller. I thought you'd like it because of the bookseller, and her husband is a journalist, and he's after uncovering one of the big drug lords.
Ooh.
Wrote an article, so the entire family got wiped out except the bookseller, who's his wife, and their son. And now she's trying to escape from Mexico and head up to the United States.
Sounds like
Excellent book, well worth read.
Sounds like an amazing read. I'll have to add it to my list. What makes you recommend a book?
If I really enjoy a book myself, I recommend it. Although I have recommended books to people and they've hated it. So it's very personal. And you can't get upset if people don't like what you recommend, but I still recommend them.
And what makes you pick up a book?
What makes me pick up a book? The fact that I like to read so much. Any spare time I have a book in my hand. And if anybody recommends a book to me, I love to have a look at that book and see if I like it. I also read a lot of reviews. So I have stacks of books on my want to read list, and the stack is just piling up. I don't think I'll ever get through them because there are so many books and so little time.
It's the same for me. I think reading all the reviews on Instagram and Goodreads, I'm very easily influenced, so I have many, many books that people have recommended. And I think for me as well, it's about the cover of the book. Like if I see a very vibrant cover, it draws me in and I just immediately buy the book without ever having read in the back of it. So that's part of my reason why I have hundreds of books that I haven't read.
They do say not to judge a book by its cover, but I think you're right. Definitely the cover has an awful lot to do with whether you choose a book or not.
Especially when you're in the bookshop and you're looking for books to buy. I think if I see a nice cover, I'm like, yeah, you're coming home.
Very good.
Obviously, you recommend books to friends, but you have to pick books and recommend them to students. What's that like?
It can be quite difficult actually, because sometimes you pick a student and you say, he'd love a book on motorbikes. And you give him a book on motorbikes and he doesn't like it at all. It's important to actually ask the students what they like. I'd often bring them on book buys with me so they can choose what they want, because one thing I will say about our library in school, it's tailored to our students. So if I was working in a different school, it could be a totally different collection of books, because you actually have to tailor your collection to your students, to your readers. There's no point in... I used to buy all books on stars, the galaxies, because I thought they were gorgeous books, but nobody reads them. So there's no point in me having them in the library for me, because I'm trying to set my library up for my students. So I buy what the students want.
Yes, and I've seen, obviously, the school library, and I can agree that there's definitely a book of every genre for everyone in this school, in the library. Do you have a favourite author, Anne?
I can't say I have a favourite, really. My favourite author changes all the time. I absolutely loved Maeve Binchy. I read everything she wrote. But then when I passed that stage, I started reading John Grisham, and I really like him. And I also like John Boyne. So I guess I have a bit of an Irish theme going on here. I like the Irish authors. I get great pleasure out of their books.
I agree. I think my favourite author changes all the time, but I do have one that I think will remain forever in my favourites, and that's Rick Riordan. He's wrote Percy Jackson.
Yes.
And any book he comes out with, I will immediately buy.
Very popular in school as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think the stories that he's come up with, there's a different one every time, and they're so easy to escape with. So he will forever, I think, remain in my top 5 anyway, at least.
That's great. Well done.
And my final question, Anne, is how do you think we can encourage more young people to read?
I think we have to make reading fun. You know, there actually is a book for every person. And the book for me is a different book to the book for you. So it's important, I think, for people to realise that if you're reading a book and you find it's a chore, cast it aside. There are millions of books out there. Just pick a book that you like, a book that helps you escape, because that's what it is, really. A book will take places you've never been before.
Completely agree, and escapism is a major part of reading, and I think if everyone could find a book tailored to them, I think a lot more people would enjoy reading. Thank you so much, Anne, for coming on to the podcast. Me, myself, and I know all the students as well in Terence McSweeney, you're a great librarian, and it's been absolutely lovely to have you on, and thank you so much for answering all my questions, and I've really enjoyed it.
No problem, Sarah. The pleasure was mine. And you were a model student, let me say. If every librarian had a student like you in their class, they'd be away with it. Yeah, it was a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the Thelostlibrary podcast. This has been our first episode, and I hope you've enjoyed it. I've linked our socials below so you can give us a follow. And don't forget to like, subscribe and share so you can read between the lines with us.